Hello YouTube, Dave here again, just getting ready to make my next video. Before I start my review of the 5th edition D&D starter set, I just wanted to actually show the items in my collection that I missed in the last videos. So here they are. This is the Dungeon Command line, sort of the third iteration of the plastic D&D minis games. They were released as non-randomized factions, 5 factions in total. The first 2 released were the Heart of Cormyr and the Sting of Lolth. And then they had the Tyranny of Goblins, Curse of Undeath, and Blood of Grummish was the final release in the set. It's a really nice game, more of a tactical board game than necessarily a minis game. It is a diceless system, relies on cards for increases in powers and defense and stuff like that. I also have the 4th edition version of the Gamma World role-playing game. I just have the basic set. There were 2 expansions released. I did not pick those up mostly because I wasn't really planning on running it. A friend of mine had all 3 sets and he was looking to run it possibly. So I decided I was at least going to pick up another one of the basic sets so that we could have another copy for the players. So, and then just a couple board games. Innsmouth Escape, which is sort of a H.P. Lovecraft thing. Never actually got around to opening it or playing it yet. And of course the Order of the Stick adventure game. 3 Dragon Ante, which was a card game that Wizards put out and kind of tried to, cross market with a bunch of other things. You can actually use the 3 Dragon Ante cards in the Expedition to Castle Ravenloft adventure as the fortune-telling tarot cards, which is kind of cool. And then some Shaygoth, Munchkin Cthulhu, Munchkin the Guild, unopened pack. It was just the few cards there, released for that as an expansion. And then a couple of other box sets. So I've got the Dragonlance Tales of the Lance, and can't really see it here, but this is Red Steel, which was a supplement for the Mystara setting, which was the default setting for, I guess, D&D back in the day. And then the Savage Baronies set as well. I think these are the only 2 things released for it. Not entirely sure, but each of these actually still contains the audio CD soundtrack, which is really cool. And then we're just going to go over and have a look at the minis in my collection for D&D minis and chainmail. So we'll go over and have a look at those. And here we have some of my miniatures collection. So first of all is the chainmail role-playing game. Came out in, I think, 2001, sort of loosely based on the 3rd edition D&D rules. And there's the starter set that I picked up. Then the faction that I used the most was Revilla, which was the Elves. The chainmail system actually was really well done. It had a backstory and kind of an explanation as to why each of these factions were made up the way that they were. Then you had the orcs and goblinoids and kind of monstrous humanoids there for the Drazen Sword, which is kind of my second faction. And there was the Drow, and not many people like going up against the Drow. The Displacer Beast in particular was kind of difficult to deal with. And then there was Mordengard, the Dwarves. I kind of bought these more or less to have as role-playing aids, just where, I liked playing Dwarves for a period of time, so I got a bunch of those, but they ended up being kind of a nice faction to have as sort of a third backup. And if people came over and wanted to play a game, they had a little bit of variety with me. I think I collected basically 3 or 4 of the 6 factions. So, and there's just a couple more for Drazen Sword. Got duplicates there to get a couple of owlbears and some goblin troopers. And then at the end of Chainmail's lifespan, they actually re-released a lot of the miniatures in sets. So there is Dragons 1. Now, unfortunately, this one had the red dragon, and somehow, I'm not sure how, but I completely misplaced the red dragon miniature for it, which is really kind of irritating, but it's gone now. The D&D Minis plastic game that came out later actually had a resculpt of the dragon, so if I ever needed to use it for a game, I'm sure I could find the stat card somewhere and just use the plastic mini. And then there were the Dragons 2, which had the brass dragon. And then the Heroes 3, before this came out, they had Heroes 1 and 2, which was just the miniatures themselves. It wasn't actually for any sort of game. And then there's the supplement to the City of the Spider Queen adventure. So it's just basically the Drow faction from Chainmail there, the kill sec, and this person here, Array Tessarin, was a special miniature release only for this set, and she was pretty powerful. Unfortunately, no longer have her stat card. Only ever got to play her once in a game, and she was pretty mean. And these are just some examples of the chainmail miniatures that I've actually got around to painting. Most of them sadly are still unpainted, and I keep meaning to get around to them, getting back to them. At this rate, it's probably going to be my retirement project, but there we go. The Abyssal Ravager's tail, I never actually got around to finishing it, so it's just kind of the base coat. That's why it looks a little contrasty. And then there's the werewolf that I painted, which is one of my favorite ones. I thought turned out pretty good. And then there was, in 2003, the D&D Minis plastic game. They were plastic, pre-painted, and random, and I spent more money than I care to admit on this one. Actually started to get very frustrated because in later sets they had rarity value, so a lot of the really nice minis that they had were rare, and I spent a ton of money on certain sets trying to find one particular thing and just couldn't get them. But here's some of the earlier ones at least. There's the all-powerful Jozan and Hound Archon, Aspect Demogorgon, Dragon, Brass Dragon, the Black Dragon, which I was really happy to get. That was one of the ones I was trying to get, and probably spent about $100 or so before I finally did, at $15 a booster. And the Blue Dragon. So I'll talk more in depth about these games in a future video, but I did omit them from my last collection video, so I kind of wanted to right that wrong. And without further ado, I'll start my review for the 5th edition starter set. Alright, and here we have it, the 5th edition D&D starter set. So we have the just the front of the box here with the like really nice artwork there with the green dragon attacking a hero there, and they decided to go with just D&D, which I like because originally the code name for this edition was D&D Next, and truth be told, I really didn't want to buy anything that said D&D Next on it. And then down here we have the D&D, the Dungeons & Dragons actual logo, all spelled out. The back of the box here just shows the contents, some text there, just kind of marketing stuff, and a really nice picture of an ogre, which looks a lot like the ogre from the Blood of Grummish Dungeon Command fig, which is nice. And then just showing here, and they actually did refer to it again as 5th edition, and which is again good because they at first seemed to want to be completely getting away from using numbered editions. So that's really nice. Also in the set came this advertisement for D&D Encounters. It's a pretty standard thing, but on the back of the advertisement is actually just a blank character sheet, and which is nice but kind of disappointing at the same time for reasons I'll get into in part 2. And then there was the set of dice. It's a really nice set of dice. They actually have sort of a design to them versus other ones, which I'll show in part 2. It's more of a comparison here. So really nice set of dice. They're similar to the ones that you actually got with the D&D Essentials set. And we have the character sheets. There are 5 characters in all. There's the Fighter Folk Hero, Wizard Acolyte, Cleric Soldier, which is a dwarf, Wizard is an elf, Halfling Thief, Criminal, Rogue I guess they want to call them, and then there's a human fighter with a noble background. And I actually ended up getting 2 of these ones in my box set. Not sure if that was supposed to happen, but it happened anyway. So this is what the back of his sheet looks like. And I say the characters are actually unnamed and ungendered, so you can customize them somewhat. And then there are there's the rule book, which is 32 pages. Just sort of a basic rule set here. And again, some nice artwork in there, the charts, like that, so some really nice artwork. And then there's the adventure, the Lost Mine of Phandelver, and it's the 64-page supplement there, which includes some of the DM stuff. And then there was this thing, just a cardboard insert, which I'm going to talk more about in part 2 of the review. So this is it for, I just want to show the contents of the box for this set. here for this video, and part 2 will be more of a critical review and a comparison actually to the other starter sets that I have.